The first thing I recognized was my wedding dress. Not one that looked like it. Mine. The fitted ivory silk, the narrow row of pearl buttons, the lace at the left cuff where my mother had repaired a tiny tear with pale blue thread. My younger sister, Marisol, was wearing it as she walked toward the man I had planned to marry. I sat in the last pew of St. Casimir's in Milwaukee, 14 months out of prison, and watched her smile at Daniel beneath the flowers I had once chosen for our ceremony. Marisol saw me before she reached the altar. Her smile slipped for an instant. Then she lifted her chin as if I were the intruder. The ceremony continued. Daniel looked back once, found me near the doors, and went pale. He had received the forensic report 6 days earlier. He knew Marisol had impersonated me while I was incarcerated. He still had not cancelled the wedding. When the officiant asked them to join hands, Marisol whispered, "Nothing gets to take this day from us." Then Daniel's phone rang. She tried to cover the screen with her bouquet. "Ignore it," she said. Daniel looked down. "It's Rosa's care center." My mother had not spoken a complete sentence since the crash that put me in prison. Marisol gripped his wrist. "They can call back." He answered and switched to speaker. A nurse introduced herself. A court-appointed advocate and my mother's speech therapist were in the room. Then, through the church speakers, my mother's damaged voice forced out 5 words that split our family open. "Daniel, do not marry her." To understand why my sister was standing in my dress and trying to silence our mother, you have to understand the bargain I made 2 years earlier. It cost me my career, my freedom, my name, and nearly every person I loved. And Marisol was supposed to tell the truth before any of that happened. At 45, I had spent most of my life being described with words that sounded like compliments: steady, sensible, dependable, strong. I was a licensed occupational therapy assistant at an adaptive sports clinic on Milwaukee's South Side. I helped people learn how to cook after a stroke, transfer safely after a spinal injury, and find a version of independence that did not depend on pretending their bodies had never changed. I believed I understood boundaries because I taught them at work. At home, I had none. My mother, Rosa Ruiz, was 68 and newly retired from the school cafeteria where she had worked for 31 years. She was funny, proud, and incapable of asking a neutral question. "Are you eating enough?" meant she thought you looked tired. "Is that what you're wearing?" meant she had already rejected it. "How is Marisol?" usually meant she wanted me to fix something without admitting she had asked. Marisol was 37. She was beautiful in a way that made strangers decide she was exciting before she opened her mouth. She worked as an event stylist, though her income came in waves and her plans changed with them. She could transform a plain banquet room into something luminous. She could also turn a bad afternoon into a crisis that required 4 relatives, 3 loans, and someone else accepting the blame. We loved each other. That is important. She was not born plotting to destroy me. I was not born eager to disappear for her. We learned our roles slowly. When Marisol brought home a B, Mom asked why she could not study like Elena. When I refused to sneak out, Mom announced that at least one daughter respected her. If Marisol forgot a bill, I paid it. If she lost a job, I helped rewrite her resume. Every rescue made me look more responsible and made her feel more judged. Then Mom praised me for rescuing her, and the circle tightened. I told Mom to stop comparing us. I also kept stepping in. Daniel once said, "Your family treats you like the emergency exit. Everybody assumes you'll stay unlocked." I laughed because the alternative was recognizing he was right. Daniel Mercer was 46, a city building inspector who had spent 18 years checking schools, apartments, and public buildings for safety violations. He noticed loose handrails and blocked exits before he noticed art on the walls. He was patient without being passive, and his idea of romance was replacing the batteries in every smoke detector in my mother's duplex before winter. We had been together for 4 years and engaged for 9 months. Our wedding was scheduled for October 12 at St. Casimir's, the church where my parents had married. Mom had paid the deposit on my dress. Marisol had designed the invitations. For a while, I thought the 4 of us were building something stable. Then Marisol got her second DUI. Nobody was injured, but her license was suspended and she was placed on probation. She lost a hotel decorating contract because she could not drive supplies to events. Mom said, in front of her, Elena would never risk somebody else's life like that. Marisol stared at her plate and said, "Good thing the family already has a saint." I told Mom to stop. I drove Marisol to probation meetings. I stored her decorating bins in my garage. I did not see that every favor had begun to feel like evidence against her. The crash happened after Mom's retirement party in February. Marisol had transformed the Union Hall with paper flowers, gold lights, and photographs from Mom's years at the school. For most of the night, she was brilliant. She made Mom feel celebrated. She gave a toast about the thousands of children Rosa had fed and the 2 daughters she had raised. Then she drank. By 10 p.m., she was slurring. I took her keys before she could leave. She called me controlling. Mom told her to lower her voice. Marisol said Mom only cared how everything looked. Outside, freezing rain had glazed the parking lot. I put Mom in the front passenger seat of her Subaru because her knees hurt. Marisol climbed into the back and kicked the door shut. "Take me to my car," she said. "You're not driving. I need my equipment tomorrow. I'll bring it to you." "Of course you will. Saint Elena fixes the day again." Mom twisted in her seat. "Your sister is keeping you alive. Say thank you." "There it is," Marisol said. "Elena good. Marisol bad. Do you practice that when we're not around?" "You are drunk," Mom said. "And you are cruel. You just make your sound helpful." I turned onto Lake Drive and kept both hands on the wheel. The wipers scraped over thin ice. The lake beyond the dark houses was invisible. "Everybody stop," I said. "We can hate each other tomorrow." Marisol leaned between the seats. "Pull over." "No. Pull over now. We are on an icy road. Sit back and put your seatbelt on." She reached for Mom's door handle. Mom slapped her hand away. Marisol shouted. I saw her shoulder move in the mirror. Then both of her hands closed over the right side of the steering wheel. She yanked hard. The Subaru jumped toward the curb. I fought left. The tires lost their grip, caught for an instant, and spun us across the opposite lane. I remember Mom yelling my name. I remember the white flash of a streetlight. I remember the airbag striking my face. When I opened my eyes, freezing rain was falling through shattered glass. My chest burned from the seat belt. Marisol was crying in the back. Mom made a low sound I had never heard from another human being. Her head rested at the wrong angle against the window, and blood ran from her temple into her gray hair. "Mom?" I tried to reach her, but the dashboard had folded toward my knees. "Mom, look at me." She did not. Marisol crawled out through the rear door. A man from a nearby house ran toward us with his phone. Sirens sounded somewhere beyond the rain. At the hospital, doctors took Mom into surgery for bleeding around her brain. Marisol had a fractured wrist and bruised ribs. I needed 17 stitches above my eyebrow and had cracked 2 ribs, but I could walk. That became my initial reason for taking charge. Police Officer Warren met me in a family consultation room while Daniel was driving to the hospital. He asked who had been driving. I was. What happened? Through the glass wall, I saw Marisol standing in the hallway with her wrist wrapped. Her probation officer had warned her that another alcohol-related offense could mean prison. She looked at me and mouthed, "Please." Officer Warren waited. The truth was 7 words long. My sister grabbed the steering wheel. Instead I said, I looked down at my phone. The car drifted, and I overcorrected on the ice. The lie entered the room quietly. It did not feel like a felony. It felt like giving my sister a few hours until Mom was stable. Officer Warren asked if I had been drinking. I had consumed half a glass of champagne at the start of the party. My blood test was below the legal limit. He asked whether Marisol had touched the wheel. I said no. That was the moment I could have stopped everything. I did not. Daniel arrived wearing work boots and a navy jacket, snow melting across his shoulders. He held my face between his hands and asked what happened. I made a mistake, I said. What kind of mistake? I looked at my phone. He searched my eyes. Elena, you never touch your phone while driving. I did tonight. He looked toward Marisol. She was bent over in a chair, crying into Aunt Lucia's coat. Was she involved? My throat closed. No. Daniel believed me because I had trained him to believe that when I accepted blame, the search was over. Mom survived the surgery, but swelling caused a stroke. Her right side was weak. She could understand more than she could express, and during the early weeks she communicated mostly through blinking, squeezing a hand, and sounds that broke my heart. Marisol came to my apartment the morning after Mom woke. She set her cast on my kitchen table and whispered, "Thank you. You have to tell them." "I will. Today." Mom just opened her eyes. "If I confess now, I get locked up and you have to handle everything alone. Let me get her through rehab. Then I'll tell them it was me. They are investigating a crash that nearly killed her. And they think it was an accident. They think I caused it." She began to cry. "You have never been arrested. Your blood test was clean. You have a career. You will get probation. I have a record. They will bury me." I wish I could say she tricked me with a brilliant plan. She did not. She appealed to the part of me that had always believed I could absorb impact better than she could. "Give me until Mom can communicate," she said. "Then we'll tell the truth together." I agreed. 3 weeks later, the district attorney charged me with reckless injury causing great bodily harm and making a false statement. Data from the car showed a sharp steering input, but because I had claimed I overcorrected, it supported the prosecution. My phone had not been active, which I explained by saying I had looked at a notification without unlocking it. My public defender, Grace Abbott, asked me 4 times whether someone had distracted me or touched the wheel. I lied 4 times. Daniel wanted to hire a private attorney. I refused because we were saving for the wedding. He asked why I would plead guilty when the story did not sound like me. I told him guilt was making me strange. Marisol kept promising that Mom was almost ready. Then Mom developed pneumonia. Then the neurologist wanted another scan. Then Marisol said a confession would interrupt a transfer to a better facility. Every delay sounded temporary when I was inside it. My licensing board suspended me. The clinic placed me on leave. We canceled our October ceremony but kept the reservation open for another year because Daniel said we would get through it. The plea agreement called for 18 months instead of a possible 5 years. Grace told me the judge might reduce it because of my clean record and my work history. The judge did not. At sentencing, Daniel sat behind me. Mom appeared by video from the rehabilitation hospital. Marisol sat beside her, holding up a tablet so Mom could see. When the judge asked whether I accepted responsibility, I looked directly at the camera. Mom's left hand lifted off the blanket. Her fingers moved once, urgently, but Marisol lowered the tablet. "Yes, Your Honor," I said. "I accept responsibility." The judge sentenced me to 18 months. Daniel made a sound behind me as the deputy approached. Marisol looked down. That night, in the county holding cell, I understood that temporary lies do not stay temporary just because you keep promising to end them. Before I was transferred to Techita, I gave Marisol my apartment key, my mother's insurance information, and the passwords to our family email account. She said she would pay my bills, forward Daniel's messages, bring Mom to visits when possible, and tell the truth as soon as Mom was medically strong enough. Daniel visited twice during my first month. The room smelled like disinfectant and burnt coffee. We sat across from each other under fluorescent lights while a guard watched from behind glass. On the first visit, Daniel reached for my hands. "Tell me the part you're hiding," he said. "There isn't one. Your phone records show you weren't using it." I looked at the screen. "Grace thinks the steering movement was too sudden." I panicked. He leaned back. "Did Marisol touch the wheel?" Every truthful door was still open. I closed them again. No. The second visit was worse. Mom had been moved to a skilled nursing unit. Daniel said Marisol was sleeping in Mom's duplex because she did not want Rosa alone. He praised my sister for taking responsibility. The irony should have made me confess. Instead, I thanked him for helping her. Then his visits stopped. I wrote him every Sunday. I wrote Mom every Wednesday. The prison recorded outgoing mail, but letters crossed a border I could not see. None came back. None received answers. After 6 weeks, I received an email printout from Marisol. "Daniel needs space," she had written. "He says contact is keeping both of you stuck. He asked me to tell you not to write for a while." I stared at those sentences until the paper softened beneath my fingers. I wrote Daniel a final letter. I told him I loved him, that I would respect his need for distance, and that I hoped we could talk when I came home. He never answered. 2 months later, Marisol wrote that Daniel had ended the engagement. She said he could not reconcile the woman he loved with the woman who had lied through a felony case. She told me he had left my belongings in Mom's garage and did not want further contact. There was no breakup conversation. No final visit. Just Marisol's words on white paper. I believed her because she included details only Daniel and I knew: the name of the cabin where he had proposed, the sentence I used when I was afraid, the way he called me Lena when nobody else did. Those details did not prove Daniel wrote the message. They proved Marisol had read my email. I did not understand that until much later. Inside, time became both rigid and shapeless. Count. Breakfast. Work assignment. Count. Dinner. Lights out. I cleaned medical equipment in the infirmary because my old license meant I could be trusted with inventory but not patients. I learned not to cry while waiting for mail. Marisol sent updates about Mom every 2 or 3 weeks. Speech therapy was slow. Mom could point and use a few picture cards. She tired easily. Visits were too stressful. The facility limited transportation. Mom became agitated when my name came up. That last sentence hurt enough to make me stop asking. I told myself my mother blamed me for the crash. Shame made Marisol's explanations feel logical. 14 months after sentencing, I was released early for good behavior. Marisol was supposed to meet me. I waited outside with a paper bag of clothes and $82 in release money while cars arrived for everyone else. After 70 minutes, the officer at the gate told me I had to move away from the entrance. I called Aunt Lucia from a payphone in the lobby of a nearby gas station. She answered on the 5th ring. "Elena?" Marisol didn't come. Silence. "Where are you?" "Fond du Lac." "Where is my sister?" Lucia took a breath that sounded like a warning. "She's with Daniel." I thought she meant he was helping with Mom. Can they pick me up? Elena, they live together. The gas station lights hummed above me. What? It did not happen right away. They were both caring for Rosa. They got close. Your email told Daniel you never wanted to see him again. My what? The breakup email. I gripped the receiver. I never sent one. Lucia did not speak. Aunt Lucia, I never sent Daniel an email. She picked me up 90 minutes later, but she did not take me to Mom's duplex. Marisol had changed the locks. Lucia drove me to a budget motel near the highway and paid for 3 nights. I need to see Mom, I said. Marisol says visits confuse her. Marisol says a lot of things. Lucia flinched. Did you know they were together? For almost a year. Did you think I knew? Marisol showed us the email. What did it say? That prison had changed you. That Daniel represented a life you did not want. That he should move on and never contact you again. And everybody accepted that? You had stopped writing Rosa. I wrote her every week. Lucia looked at me then, really looked. Rosa never received those letters. That was when betrayal stopped being a romantic word. Daniel was not the center of it. My sister had placed herself between an injured woman and every message that might expose her. The next morning, I took a bus to Mom's duplex. My old key did not fit. I knocked until the porch light clicked on. Marisol opened the door wearing Daniel's gray college sweatshirt. For a moment, neither of us spoke. She looked older and more polished. Her hair was tied back. There were shadows under her eyes. Behind her, Mom's living room had been rearranged for a wheelchair. A hospital bed stood near the window. Daniel's work boots sat beside the radiator. You were supposed to pick me up, I said. I sent Lucia. After I called her. Today is a bad day for Mom. I didn't ask if it was a good day. I asked why you're wearing my fiancé sweatshirt. Her jaw tightened. Ex-fiancé. I never ended it. You sent the email. You know I didn't. She glanced toward the living room. Keep your voice down. I laughed once. Now you care about noise? I care about Mom. I have been here every day while you were gone. I learned her medications. I fought the insurance company. I bathed her when she screamed because she could not remember why she needed help. You do not get to arrive after 14 months and act like nothing happened. I was in prison for what you did. The sentence stopped her. Then she whispered, you agreed. I felt something inside me become still. I agreed to give you time. I did not agree to give you my life. Movement behind her caught my eye. Mom sat in a wheelchair near the dining room. Her silver hair was shorter. Her right hand curled against her chest. When she saw me, she made a sound and pushed at the wheel with her left foot. Mom. I stepped forward. Marisol blocked the doorway. Mom lifted her left hand toward me. She is overwhelmed, Marisol said. Her therapist says sudden emotional visits can cause setbacks. Move. You have a restraining condition against confrontational contact at the crash victim's residence. I checked. If you force your way in, I will call the police. She had prepared the sentence. Daniel appeared in the hall behind Mom. When he saw me, he stopped. His face carried 3 emotions at once, shock, guilt, and something that hurt worse than both. Love. Elena, he said. Marisol turned. Do not do this in front of Rosa. I looked at Daniel. Did you get my letters? What letters? I wrote every Sunday. You told me never to contact you again. No, I didn't. Marisol reached for the door. This is not helping, Mom. I kept my eyes on Daniel. Ask her who sent the email. Mom made another sound. Her left hand struck the wheelchair tray. Marisol shut the door. I stood on the porch listening to the lock turn. An hour later, Daniel found me at a diner 6 blocks away. He sat across from me but did not remove his coat. Did you send that email? He asked. No. It came from your account. It used things you had said to me. Marisol had my password. He stared down at the table. Why would she do that? Because she needed you to stop asking me questions. Because she needed Mom isolated. Because she wanted what I had. Pick one. We did not start seeing each other until almost 10 months after your sentencing. That is supposed to make it better? No. It is supposed to be true. The waitress placed coffee between us. Neither of us touched it. You could have asked me, I said. I did. You told me not to come back. I never did. Before the email. At the prison. I asked if Marisol touched the wheel. You looked me in the face and said no. I had spent 14 months rehearsing how betrayed I would feel if Daniel moved on. I had not rehearsed the part where he was also allowed to be betrayed by me. She grabbed it, I said. His eyes lifted. What? Marisol grabbed the wheel with both hands. She was drunk and furious. I was driving because I took her keys. He went completely still. You went to prison for her. I went to prison because I lied for her. You let me watch you plead guilty. Yes. You let me think I had failed to see who you were. I thought she would confess. He stood so quickly his knee struck the table. Do you hear yourself? Every day. Do you have proof? The question felt like a slap because it was reasonable. Mom knows. Rosa cannot tell us. She tried. Elena, I do not know what to believe. Marisol has cared for your mother for more than a year. You lied to the police, your lawyer, a judge, and me. Now you come home and say the person I live with caused everything. Because she did. He pressed both hands to the back of his neck. I need evidence. You loved me. His face tightened. That is why I need evidence. He left without drinking the coffee. For 2 weeks, I slept in a church-run women's residence and applied for work. The felony appeared before I could explain it. A home care agency ended the interview as soon as I disclosed the conviction. Then I met Evelyn Price. Evelyn was 74, a retired high school principal with severe arthritis and a talent for making kindness sound like an accusation. She needed an overnight companion after hip surgery. During the interview, she asked why a trained occupational therapy assistant was applying to sleep on a sofa and make breakfast. I told her the truth. Not all of it. Enough. I have a felony conviction from a crash that injured my mother. Were you drunk? No. Were you texting? No. Then why does the state say you caused it? I hesitated. Evelyn tapped her cane on the floor. If you plan to lie, make it interesting. I was a principal for 28 years. I have heard every boring version. I told her everything. When I finished, she said, "You are not as selfless as you think." I stared at her. Excuse me? You decided you were strong enough to control everybody's consequences. That is not humility. It is another form of control. I went to prison. Yes. A spectacularly bad result. Can you make oatmeal? I took the job. Evelyn gave me an upstairs room and paid enough for me to save for a lawyer. She refused to become another person I could rescue. When I rearranged her medication tray without asking, she said, "My hip is damaged. My authority is not." The sentence stayed with me. My mother's speech was damaged. Her authority was not. Marisol held an old durable power of attorney Mom had signed before knee surgery 6 years earlier. She used it to approve care, control access, redirect mail, and move money between Mom's accounts. Relatives treated her as the official interpreter because she was the daughter doing daily work. Daily work can be loving. It can also become a locked door. Evelyn gave me the number of Maya Chen, an elder law attorney who volunteered at a legal clinic. Maya listened without reacting, then separated my crisis into pieces. Your conviction is a separate matter, she said. Your mother's right to independent communication is another. Your relationship with Daniel is not a legal matter at all, no matter how much it hurts. I want access to Mom. Then we ask for an independent capacity evaluation and a limited review of the power of attorney. We do not demand that the court choose which sister is good. Marisol will say I am retaliating because of Daniel. Then do not retaliate. Ask for the smallest order that gives Rosa a voice. Maya filed a petition requesting a neutral advocate, private evaluation by a speech-language pathologist, and supervised visits. She attached my prison mail log, which showed 43 letters addressed to Mom and 51 to Daniel. Marisol called Evelyn's house 12 times the night she was served. On the 13th call, I answered. You took me to court after everything I did for Mom, she shouted. I asked the court to let her communicate without you. She cannot communicate. Then an independent specialist can say so. You want Daniel back. This is not about Daniel. Silence. That was the initial move she had not anticipated. She knew how to compete with me for a man, a dress, a wedding, or Mom's praise. She did not know what to do when I refused the competition and focused on Mom's rights. The court appointed a guardian ad litem named Tessa Green and ordered an evaluation by Dr. Anika Shah. Marisol objected that strangers would exhaust Mom. The judge limited the initial session to 40 minutes and prohibited Marisol from staying in the room. Mom identified photographs, dates, and family members. She answered yes or no by touching colored cards and could type short phrases on a tablet. Dr. Shah asked whether she wanted to see me. Mom typed, "Bring Elena." She asked whether Mom was afraid of me. Mom touched NO so hard the card slid off the table. Then she typed, "Mari lies." The report did not ask what the lie was. Maya told me not to push faster than Mom's capacity. The point is not to turn her into your witness, she said. The point is to stop everyone from treating her silence as consent. The judge granted supervised visits. I cried in Evelyn's kitchen until she pushed a roll of paper towels toward me. Those are for spills, I said. This qualifies. My initial visit lasted 30 minutes at the care center. A social worker stayed near the door. Marisol waited outside. Mom reached for me as soon as I entered. I knelt beside her wheelchair and rested my forehead against her hand. I am sorry, I said. I lied because I thought I was protecting you. She shook her head and tapped the tablet. You protect wrong. I laughed through my tears. That sounds like you. Her mouth pulled into a crooked smile. Then she typed, old iPad. Blue case. What about it? Desk. Mari email. The social worker leaned forward. Are you saying Marisol used the tablet? I asked. Mom touched yes. For my email? Yes. Mom typed another phrase with visible effort. She hid mail. Maya asked the court to preserve electronic devices and communications at the duplex while the review was pending. The judge issued a narrow order. Nobody was supposed to remove or alter Mom's laptop, tablet, phone, mail, or account records. 2 days later, Aunt Lucia arrived at Evelyn's house carrying a laptop inside a reusable grocery bag. I have done something terrible, she said. Evelyn opened the door wider. You will have to be more specific. Lucia set the bag on the dining table. Her hands shook. Marisol asked me to take this before the inventory. She said it contained Rosa's private medical information. That is removing evidence, I said. I know. I opened it. Why? Because she looked scared. Not angry. Scared. Inside the laptop were folders named with dates and my initials. Lucia had seen scanned letters, screenshots of messages between Daniel and me, and several drafts of a breakup email. I wanted to open it myself. Maya told all of us to step away. A forensic examiner made a legal copy of the drive and preserved the access history. We waited 12 days for a report. During those 12 days, Marisol accelerated her wedding. Daniel and I had reserved St. Casimir's for October 12th. After my sentencing, he had paid to move the date once. When our relationship collapsed, the church kept part of the deposit as a credit. Marisol convinced Daniel to use it. She told relatives that Mom's health was failing and Rosa wanted to see them married. The new ceremony was 5 weeks away. Then it became 2. Daniel called me after receiving notice of the electronic review. Marisol says you are using Rosa to punish her. Do you believe that? I do not know. You always used to know what was safe and what was not. Buildings are easier than people. I almost smiled. Almost. He continued. I checked the breakup email. It was sent on a night you were in restricted housing. I found an old security alert from your account showing a login at Rosa's address. Marisol lived there. So did Rosa. Lucia visited. I need more than an address. The forensic report is coming. And the crash? Mom remembers. Can she communicate that clearly? She will when she is ready. The wedding is in 13 days. That is your deadline, not hers. He was quiet. Are you wearing my dress? I asked. What? Not you. Marisol. The wedding gown that was in Mom's cedar closet is gone. Daniel's breathing changed. She told me Rosa sold it to cover medical bills. She lied. How do you know? Because Mom asked about it during our visit. Marisol told her the fabric was being cleaned. I have not seen her dress. Of course he had not. Marisol had wrapped theft in a wedding tradition. Ask her, I said. I will. And if she admits it? Another silence. I do not know. I ended the call. Evelyn found me sitting on the back steps. You want him to choose you, she said. I want him to reject what she did. Those are not the same desire, but they share a wall. He is marrying my sister in my church on my deposit, and she may be wearing my dress. I am allowed to be angry. Absolutely. Anger is information. It is not a steering wheel. I looked at her. That metaphor was unnecessary. It was excellent. The forensic report arrived 6 days before the ceremony. The breakup message had been drafted on Mom's laptop while I was incarcerated. The active browser profile was Marisol's. My recovery phone number had been changed to her number 3 days before the message and changed back the following morning. Local files contained copied phrases from my old emails, including the private nickname Daniel used for me. The examiner also recovered scanned images of 19 letters I had sent Mom. They had been opened, scanned, and stored. The originals were not found. Marisol had not merely stopped my words. She had studied them so she could sound like me. Maya sent the report to Daniel, the guardian ad litem, and the attorney helping me seek post-conviction relief. She also notified the district attorney because the evidence suggested witness isolation and electronic impersonation connected to the crash. Daniel came to Evelyn's house that night. He stood under the porch light with the report folded in his hand. I believe you about the email, he said. Good. I confronted her. She says she wrote it because you were destroying yourself with guilt and I was keeping you attached to a life you could not return to. That is not an explanation. I know. Did you ask about the dress? His face told me before he spoke. It is yours. I closed my eyes. She said Rosa gave it to her. Mom cannot sign her own birthday card without help. She said. Rosa nodded. While Marisol was translating the question. He looked sick. I told her to get another dress. And the wedding? I have not decided. You have 6 days. That sounds decided. Elena, I loved you. I trusted you. Then you lied for months and went to prison without giving me a chance to help. Marisol lied too. I do not know which part of the last 2 years belongs to me. The part where you choose what happens next. She says canceling now will destroy Rosa. Mom asked to see me after Marisol said I frightened her. Why are you still using my sister's version of Mom's feelings? He flinched. I need to hear it from Rosa. Then wait for her. What if she never says it? Then you still know Marisol stole my identity, hid my letters, lied about my mother's wishes, and took my dress. How much proof does your dignity require? He left with no answer. The next morning, Marisol transferred Mom to a rehabilitation center 52 minutes outside Milwaukee. She claimed the move had been planned, though neither the advocate nor the court had been notified. Maya filed an emergency motion. By afternoon, the judge prohibited further transfers and ordered Marisol to disclose Mom's care team and allow continued therapy and supervised visits. When I reached the new center 3 days before the wedding, Mom looked furious. Dr. Shah had continued speech sessions by video. Mom could now produce short words, though each required effort. Elena, she said when I entered. I froze. Say it again. She smiled. Elena. I covered my mouth and cried. Mom waited, impatient even in triumph, then tapped her tablet. Need Daniel. You want to see him? Yes. Why? She typed 3 words. Car. Mari. Wheel. You remember her grabbing it? Mom touched yes. You remember what I told the police? Yes. Will you tell Maya? Yes. Will you tell Daniel? Her answer came through her own voice. Yes. That afternoon, Mom gave a recorded statement with Maya, Tessa, Dr. Shah, a physician, and a social worker present. Through speech, gestures, picture cards, and the tablet, she described the fight in the Subaru. She confirmed Marisol had been drinking, I had taken her keys, and Marisol had pulled the steering wheel with both hands. She confirmed I had not been using my phone. Then Mom added something nobody expected. Months after the crash, she had heard Marisol tell Aunt Lucia, Elena's email finally made Daniel stop waiting. Lucia broke down when Maya questioned her. She admitted Marisol had joked about helping Daniel move on. Lucia suspected the email was false but chose not to ask because Marisol was exhausted from caring for Mom and because the family had already lost a daughter to prison. They had allowed Marisol to erase me because asking questions felt disloyal. The district attorney opened a formal review of my conviction. Vehicle data supported a sudden steering force rather than a gradual drift. The pattern of my seatbelt injuries suggested I had braced forward while fighting the wheel. None of that proved my innocence alone, but together with Mom's statement, the digital evidence, and Lucia's admission, my plea no longer looked like the full truth. Maya warned me the process would take months. The wedding was in 3 days. Do not turn the church into a courtroom, she said. I am not going there to prosecute her. Why are you going? Because Marisol has built every lie around a single assumption. Which one? That shame will keep me out of the room. On the morning of the wedding, Evelyn zipped the back of the navy dress I had bought at a consignment shop. Are you going to stop it? She asked. No. Are you hoping Daniel will run into your arms? No. She raised an eyebrow. I will not beg a man at an altar, I said. If he marries her after reading that report, the decision belongs to him. I am going because I will not disappear on command anymore. Evelyn adjusted my collar. Sit where she can see you. I plan to. St. Casimir smelled of candle wax and polished wood. White ranunculus and eucalyptus lined the aisle. Guests lowered their voices when I entered. Some stared. Aunt Lucia turned in the 4th row, met my eyes, and looked down. I sat in the last pew. Daniel stood at the altar in a dark suit. He looked as if he had not slept. When he saw me, his shoulders lowered, not with relief but with recognition. Then the doors opened. Marisol walked in wearing my dress. She had changed the neckline and removed the sleeves, but the pearl buttons were intact. At her left wrist, just above the bouquet, I saw Mom's pale blue repair thread. The cruelty was so precise that I almost admired it. She could have bought another gown. Daniel had asked her to. She wore mine because replacing me was not enough. She needed the room to accept that everything I had lost now fit her better. Marisol saw me. Fear crossed her face. Then she smiled wider and continued toward the altar. The officiant began. Nobody objected when he asked if anyone knew a reason they should not marry. I did not stand. That question was ceremonial, and the truth deserved more than a stunt. When they reached the vows, Marisol took Daniel's hands. Nothing gets to take this day from us, she whispered. Then Daniel's phone rang. He frowned and reached into his jacket. Marisol shifted her bouquet over the screen. Ignore it. He moved her hand. It's Rosa's care center. They can call back. He answered. A nurse named Keisha Morgan identified herself. She said Rosa had asked to speak with him urgently. Tessa Green and Dr. Shaw were present. Daniel switched the phone to speaker. Marisol reached for it. She is not supposed to make calls without me. Daniel turned away. Mom's breathing came through the small speaker. Then her voice filled the church. Daniel, do not marry her. Every person in the pews went silent. Daniel held the phone in both hands. Rosa? Yes. Marisol shook her head. She's confused. Therapy exhausted her. Keisha spoke clearly. Ms. Ruiz was evaluated this morning. She is oriented to person, place, date, and situation. She requested this call. Mom, Marisol said, you do not understand what you are doing. Mom answered more sharply. I understand you. Daniel looked at Marisol. Do not explain her away. Mom continued, separating every word with effort. Elena drove. Marisol grabbed wheel. A murmur moved through the church. Daniel's face emptied of color. Rosa, are you saying Marisol caused the crash? Yes. And Elena took the blame? Yes. Marisol stepped toward the phone. It was an accident. The confession escaped before she recognized it. Daniel stared at her. You just answered me. I mean the whole crash was an accident. Mom is combining things. Elena lost control. I stood at the end of the last pew. Then explained the email. Marisol turned on me. This is not your wedding. I looked at the silk stretched across her body. You are wearing my answer to that. People followed my gaze. Daniel looked at the row of buttons, then at the blue thread on her cuff. You told me you would replace it, he said. Marisol's composure cracked. A dress is fabric. It was sitting in a closet while medical bills piled up. So you lied again? Because you were looking for reasons to leave. Daniel lifted the folded forensic report from inside his jacket. Your browser profile sent Elena's breakup email. You changed her recovery number to your phone. You scanned her letters. You told me she wanted no contact. Marisol looked around the church. The room she had arranged to admire her had become a room full of witnesses. She did not fall to her knees or confess beautifully. She began to justify. Do any of you know what it was like? She asked. Every day, Elena was the safe one. The smart one. The daughter Mom trusted. If I made one mistake, Mom compared me to her for a year. Then Elena got the career, the man, the wedding, all of it. You grabbed the wheel, I said. I was angry. You let me go to prison. You volunteered. The words cracked across the sanctuary. Marisol covered her mouth. Daniel stepped away from her. She volunteered because you asked her to protect you. I thought she would get probation, Marisol said. I thought Mom would recover. Every time I tried to fix it, something else went wrong. Did you send the email? Daniel asked. You were already leaving her. Answer me. She looked at him. Yes. That single word ended the wedding. Marisol reached for Daniel's hand. I love you. That part is real. He stepped back. Maybe it is. I do not know what your love means anymore. I cared for Rosa. I gave up contracts. I slept beside her hospital bed. I was there every day. Mom's voice came from the phone. You cared for me. You controlled me too. Both things were true. That was what made the moment hurt instead of satisfy. Marisol had cleaned Mom, lifted her, argued with insurers, and learned every medication. She had also hidden her mail, moved her without notice, interpreted silence as permission, and kept the only witness who knew the truth away from me. Love had not prevented abuse. It had given the abuse a respectable uniform. Daniel removed the ring he had been holding and set it beside the officiant's book. I cannot do this. Marisol clutched his sleeve. Do not humiliate me in front of everyone. He looked at her with exhausted disbelief. You built this day out of Elena's humiliation. He walked down the aisle. When he reached my row, he stopped. For a dangerous moment, the old version of me wanted him to ask me to leave with him. He did not. I am sorry, he said. Not here, I answered. He nodded and left alone. The officiant asked the guests to give the family privacy. They filed out quietly. Some stared at Marisol. Others stared at me. Aunt Lucia stayed near the front. Marisol sat on the altar step in my dress. Happy now? She asked. I walked halfway up the aisle. No. You got what you wanted. I wanted my life back. This is not the same thing. You came to destroy me. I came because you counted on me being too ashamed to show up. Her face twisted. You have always thought you were better than me. Finally, I did not rush to comfort her. No. I think I am done paying for you. Marisol looked at the phone and Daniel's abandoned handkerchief on the altar table. Mom, tell her what you did. Tell her how you compared us. Tell her how you made me feel worthless. Mom was quiet for several seconds. Then she said, I was wrong. Marisol's expression changed. I hurt you, Mom continued slowly. I am sorry. I did not make you lie. Marisol lowered her head. For a moment, I could see both versions of my sister, the wounded child who had learned that love was a ranking, and the adult who turned that wound into permission to hurt us. I loved one. I no longer trusted the other. Aunt Lucia moved closer. You gave them the laptop, Marisol said. Lucia nodded. I should have stopped you when I originally suspected. You said family protects family. Lucia began to cry. We confused protection with helping each other hide. The wedding ended without a marriage. There were no police outside and no instant return of the years I had lost. Consequences arrived through interviews, motions, hearings, and envelopes that made my stomach hurt before I opened them. The next Monday, I gave a formal statement to the district attorney and the lawyer handling my motion to withdraw the plea. I did not present myself as a martyr. I admitted lying at the crash scene. I admitted lying to Grace, Daniel, and the judge. I admitted accepting a plea while knowing the central fact was false. I explained that Marisol pressured me, but I did not pretend pressure erased my choices. My attorney said, you are not innocent of everything. You are innocent of the act your conviction says you committed. Those facts can exist together. The crash investigation reopened. Mom gave 2 additional statements. Lucia testified, Daniel turned over the false email, and a wedding guest produced a phone recording of Marisol's admission. A new analyst reviewed the vehicle and medical evidence. 5 months after the wedding, the court vacated my felony plea because the newly available evidence undermined its factual basis. The reckless injury charge was dismissed. I did not walk away untouched. I entered a diversion agreement for the false statement I had knowingly given to police. I completed counseling, 160 hours of community service, and 12 months of reporting. For once, a consequence matched something I had actually done. My professional license was restored after a separate hearing, with supervised practice for 6 months. On the first day I returned to a clinic, my hands shook while I adjusted a patient's transfer board. The patient looked at me and said, you know I'm the nervous one, right? We both laughed, and my hands steadied. Marisol's case moved more slowly. She eventually pleaded guilty to offenses connected to causing the crash, tampering with electronic records, and obstructing the investigation. The judge sentenced her to 32 months, with treatment eligibility and a no-contact order unless Mom or I requested communication through counsel. People wanted me to celebrate. I could not. Prison had not healed me. It would not heal Marisol. But consequences were no longer mine to absorb for her. She wrote 4 letters during her first year. I opened the earliest. The apology came before the explanations, then another apology, then a list of everything Mom and I had done to make her feel second. I folded it after 3 pages. I did not open the other 3. Forgiveness is not the same as access. Love is not a court order requiring you to stand within reach of someone who uses you. Mom moved into an accessible apartment near Bayview after the court ended Marisol's authority over her care. She learned to walk short distances with a quad cane. Her speech remained slow, but it belonged to her. She hated when people finished her sentences. During an afternoon visit, I guessed the word she was reaching for. Mom pointed her cane at me. I survived Marisol speaking for me. Do not start. I apologized. Then we laughed so hard she had to sit down. Her injury did not make her innocent of our family's damage. In therapy, she admitted that she had ranked her daughters for years and called it motivation. I thought I was pushing her to do better, Mom told me. You were teaching her that my happiness was evidence of her failure. Mom looked down at her hands. Yes. That conversation had no villain and no satisfying reveal. It was simply a mother naming harm she could not undo. I had work to name too. Evelyn told me, you trained everyone to believe your limits were negotiable. I hated the sentence until I understood it. Being dependable had become my identity. I carried the heavy box, covered the shift, paid the late bill, softened the truth, and protected whoever appeared least capable of surviving a consequence. People praised my strength, so I kept offering more of myself. Marisol had not forced me to take the blame. She had asked the person most likely to say yes. That truth did not excuse her. It helped me make sure there would never be another yes like it. 8 months after my conviction was vacated, I became the Adaptive Services Coordinator at a community recreation center. I disclosed the remaining falsification case before the background check. The director listened and said, I care about what you did after you stopped lying. I rented a small apartment with east-facing windows and a kitchen barely wide enough for 2 people. It was the first home I chose without asking whether Mom could reach it by bus, whether Marisol might need the spare room, or whether Daniel would approve of the neighborhood. I bought a bright yellow chair because I liked it. That sounds small until you have built your life as a waiting room for other people's emergencies. Daniel did not ask me to take him back after the wedding. I respected him for that. He apologized once, without using Marisol's lies to erase his choices. I should have asked harder questions, he said. I should have answered the earliest ones. I let loneliness make decisions for me. I let guilt make decisions for me. We did not call that reconciliation. For months, we spoke mostly because of Mom. Daniel repaired a loose railing at her apartment. I helped him find adaptive equipment for his father after knee surgery. We learned to interact without treating every kind moment as a promise. Trust returned through ordinary evidence. He said he would call, and he called. I said no, and he did not ask twice. He disagreed with me and stayed in the conversation. I felt afraid and told the truth anyway. Almost a year after the cancelled wedding, Mom wanted to attend an outdoor concert at Veterans Park. Daniel drove her. I met them after work. Children ran between folding chairs. Sailboats moved across the lake beyond the stage. Mom sat between us eating an ice cream cone too quickly. Your doctor said less sugar, I reminded her. My doctor is not here. Daniel raised both hands. I inspect buildings, not mothers. Mom pointed her spoon at him. Smart man. Finally. For a moment, I could imagine the life we might have had if nobody had lied. Then I let it go. I did not need the old life returned exactly as it was. The woman who planned that original wedding believed love meant preventing everyone she cared about from feeling pain. She did not understand that sometimes pain is the truth arriving on time. At the parking lot, Daniel slowed beside me. Can I ask you something? You just did. He smiled. Can I take you to dinner Friday? Not as Rose's driver. Not as your former fiancé. Just dinner. I looked at Mom. She made an exaggerated show of studying the sky. Do not make me translate, she said. I laughed, then looked at Daniel. One dinner. One dinner, he agreed. We did not hold hands. I did not promise him a future. I did not promise Mom that our family would become whole. I did not promise myself I would forgive Marisol on a schedule. I had made enough promises before understanding their price. What I had was simpler. My name was no longer attached to a crash I had not caused. My mother had her own voice. Daniel and I were learning whether honesty could grow where certainty once lived. And loving my family no longer required me to disappear inside their mistakes. As we crossed the grass, Mom reached for my hand with the side that had once barely moved. I took it. Not because she needed me to carry her. Because she wanted me beside her. If someone you loved begged you to take the blame for a terrible mistake, how far would you go before protection became another kind of lie? Wishing health and happiness to everyone who stayed with this story until the end.